Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is your girl, Pretty Sexy Jar the Brand, aka Sonic Assassin. And of course, Assassins, we are back for another review slash recap of Heart and Hustle Houston Season 1. And baby, tonight, whenever you're seeing this review, we are finna jump into episode 6, which is titled Back in the Saddle. But before we jump into this review, I first want to give all my assassins love, and I just want to thank you all for supporting me, liking and subscribing to the channel, helping me in the face of Halloween competition. I just want to thank you guys so much, so very much. And also shout out to the newest assassins that have joined, baby. So we went from 244 to 246. This what I'm talking about. The family is growing and steady flowing. But as always, Assassin's family, please make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure you comment. Also, tell a friend to tell a friend by sharing the video or just, shouting your girl out. But yes. We are finna go ahead and get into the review of Heart and Hustle Houston episode 6, like I said before, which is titled Back in the Saddle. Baby, let's see what the girls is finna give in Houston. So yes, you guys. As we get into our opening scene, our girl Miss Elena had booked a class for the ladies, a pole dancing class, and I think it's gonna be very interesting. So of course we have Miss Latory, Miss Rowe, and Miss Chloe, baby. And let's just say the ladies came to dance in the class up on the pole. I mean, like, giving for show. The ladies was bodying. The dance class instructor was very hype. She was teaching the ladies like all the intimacy of like what it is to have pole dancing skills and the confidence that is inside of pole dancing. And baby, let's just say the girls is having themselves a good old time. Miss Elena is showing out on the pole. Do you hear me? And our girl Miss Chloe said, baby, it's giving freaking the sheets, but also in the streets. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Our girl, Miss Elena, is like, baby, I booked the class for the girls. Let's have us a good time. Let's unwind. Let's just let our hair down and be free and have fun. And I really like that. And you can tell that the ladies are enjoying themselves because, of course, we're getting moments of silliness and laughter inside of this pole dancing class. But also, after they end their pole dancing session with their instructor, maybe the ladies sit down and they get to talking and get to catching up and seeing what's going on. And baby, that is when our girl, Miss Latoya, spills the tea that she is going on a blind date that our girl, Miss Labrina, hooks her up on with a cowboy. With a cowboy. Okay. And baby, it seems like it's gonna be a very good episode. Like the vibes is giving real chill, real fun, and we finna see our girl Miss Latoya go on a date. I know it's giving tease, but y'all, after the ladies, in and having their talk, they get up and they leave the class, and we go from that scene to our next scene. So yes, you guys. As we get into our next scene, baby, it is our girl Miss Elena, and of course she is pulling up to her shop slash studio. And baby, guess who is in her chair today? Baby, Destiny Child original member Latoya Lucky, and our girl Miss Elena says she has been working with Miss Latoya for some time, and baby, to be working with a Destiny Child member in Houstonian is always a vibe. So, baby, it's gonna definitely give the tease. But while we're coming in, you know, our girl Miss Elena setting her stuff up, and baby, we get a little bit more into about her relationship with her husband and where things are and where she sees herself going in their relationship, and where it's headed towards the future. And while she's there doing Miss Latoya's makeup, they get to talking and having conversation. And Miss Elena shares with Miss Latoya that, her and her husband are not sleeping in the same room, and that she's asked him to go to couples therapy, but he says he wants to do individual therapy. And Miss Latoya looked and said, baby, that's sounding like a single person's mind. She said, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I would like for you to ask him again. Ask him to go to couples therapy again. Miss Elena said, "You want me to ask him?" And she was like, "Yeah, I want you to ask him." And she said, "Okay, I'll ask him." And baby, I'm just like, "Yeah, baby. When the Scorpio get up in there, we want you to go here. Like, girl, let's see what's the see." But y'all, as we go from that scene to our next scene. So yes, y'all. As we get into our next scene, baby, it is our girl, Miss Latory. And baby, our girl is having a one-on-one counseling session with her therapist, Miss Sylvia. And baby, let's just say they are finna get into some really deep topics. So Miss Latoya said she's been so busy, but she said after her dad passed and she started therapy, and she met Miss Sylvia, that Miss Sylvia told her that anytime she's going through anything or she just needs someone to talk to or stop by and check in on her, she told her that she could always call her. And baby, today is one of those days, so they get to sit down and she gets to be there for our girl, Miss Latory. And baby, let's just say when they sit down, they jump right off into it. Miss Sylvia asks Miss Latoya how is she doing since, it's been 1 year of her dad passing. How does she celebrate? Or what does she do on that day? And Miss Latoya says she really can't remember how that day was for her because she says, she just woke up in such a fog. And then that's when we find out that Miss Latoya shares with us that she is the one that actually found her father at his home when he passed, and how it has changed her life because her dad was a huge part of her life, and how it's just so much she has to do, and how much time that she has to spend in other places because now she has no one to be there for her. And Miss Sylvia, changes the conversation because she wants to get from such that heavy topic, and she sees how it is affecting Miss Latoya. So she asks her about dating, and that is when our girl Miss Latoya shares that our girl Miss Labrina has hooked her up on a blind date, and her therapist is very, very excited and says this is the step that she needs to take into it's the right direction. Baby, as we go from that scene to our next scene. So, yes, y'all. As we get into our next scene, it is our girl, Miss Chloe, and baby, our girl, Miss Rowe. Miss Rowe is stopping over at Miss Chloe's house, and baby, when Miss Chloe answered the door and let Rowe in, she said she could tell the energy was off when she said hey to her girl. And baby, then she asked her, did she want a drink? And she said no. Rose said, Miss Chloe said, oh, this is serious. What's going on, girl? She said, you don't want a drink? Something ain't right. What's going on? And so the ladies go sit down on the couch and they get into the tea. And baby, our girl Miss Rowe might be finna be a mama, y'all. I'm excited. I'm excited. Miss Chloe's like, girl, Rowe, wait, huh? Baby, Rose shares the story about how she had Ubered the pregnancy test to her house, how her daughter had got it outside and ran up in the house and said, girl, what is this? Do you have something to explain to me? And baby, it is a key in the tea. But baby, also too, our girl, Miss Chloe said, we need to find out. And Ross said, well, I brought the text here with me, so girl, we can find out. And baby, our girl, Miss Rowe, goes into the bathroom. She pees on the stick. And our girl, Miss Chloe, sets the timer and they sit down and they wait. And baby, while they're waiting, they get into the topic about how the relationship is and what's going to be if she is. So yes, they get into the conversation, about if she is pregnant, how's this gonna change her life? What is this gonna mean for her daughter? And Miss Rose is very honest and she says, it's gonna change a lot of things. It also has made her reflect on her relationship with, you know, everything. And while they're talking, they check the timer, they check the pregnancy test, and the test says negative. And baby, our girl Miss Rose is happy And, she's like, girl, I guess I take that drink now. And baby, we go from that scene to our next scene. So yes, y'all. As we get into our next scene, baby, it is our girl, Miss Latory. And baby, we is on this blind date. T. And baby, our girl comes in and she sits down at the bar. This establishment is very, very nice. And she is waiting on her blind date. And baby, I cannot wait to see who our girl, Miss Labrina, has hooked our girl, Miss Latory, up with. And so while she's sitting at the bar, we get this dark skinned um salt and pepper gentleman come in with glasses. And baby, I see, okay, we got a daddy up in the building. And baby, um, he and Miss Latoya, meet each other. Miss Latoya gets up. He tries to shake her hand. She said, "No, I'm a hugger." So she reaches in, they hug, and then baby, let's say they sit down at the bar, and they get to, talking, communicating, chopping it up, and just seeing what the vibes are, seeing what's going. Now, our girl Miss Latoya is very honest. She said, "Now." Definitely a little bit more salt and pepper than she was expecting. Um, older gentleman, but you know, he got himself together. He got his life together. She can tell that he really loves his horses, and he likes to ride and Willis. Then he does like a breakdown percentage of himself as they're talking. And baby, while they talking, they have a conversation. The conversation is flowing and going, but our girl, Miss Latoya, gets down to the real nitty gritty questions into the tea. Because guess what? She's a woman, he's a man, and she asks, about kids and the future. And, does he see himself having any more kids? And, baby, let's just say the answers that he gave were interesting. And, you know, like my girl Miss Latoya said, he may be a better fit for someone else, not specifically for her. But, things end well. They have a nice dinner and they part ways very nicely and respectfully. You guys, we go from that scene to our next scene. So yes, y'all. As we get into our next scene, baby, it is our girl, Miss Rowe, and she is going to have a one-on-one counseling therapy session today. And baby, it's been a minute since our girl Miss Rowe has been to therapy, but she says today she needed to come talk, and it's been a minute, so definitely it was time for a session. And baby, she walks in, she hugs her therapist, they sit down, and baby, her therapist asks her how she been, what's been going on. And baby, our girl, Miss Rose, just opens up and starts, spilling the tea in therapy, giving what's been happening in her life, about her pregnancy scare, about, how she's been feeling, and how she has allowed for so much for so long. Other people's emotions and feelings to be put before hers, and now she's in a place where she wants to set boundaries. She said because after this pregnancy scare, and just how she had to think about how it would not only affect her but her daughter, then her child's father, which comes to find out he is in the NBA because Miss Rose says, baby, she's dated basketball players. So she knows, when they're in game, when they're in season, their focus is on the game. It is not on anything else. And baby, if she's sitting here and opening up, her therapist is telling her, she asked her, what are you teaching him? What are you teaching people? She says, about your self worth. And she's like, you're teaching them to value themselves and they're more important than you, and that, your needs are not as important, but she said they are. And, coming here and having this session and us talking about these things are going to make you get to these realizations and to these points. And baby, I just love this one-on-one counseling session. And she gives Miss Rose some tissue because Miss Rose is crying. And baby, we end on a very positive note and we go to our next scene, you guys. So, yes, y'all. As we get into our next scene, baby, it is our girl, Miss Elena, and she's at home. And baby, after her conversation with Miss Latoya, baby, she says she's decided to, open up and ask her husband for them to go to couples therapy. And baby, she calls him into the room. He comes in, and let's just say Miss Elena is very firm in her stance, but also very gentle. And she begins the conversation, checking in, seeing how her husband is feeling, where is he at, and then she slides and eases on into about them going to couples therapy and them having a conversation about it. And her husband's like, "Well, I've never been opposed to going." And we get a flashback of seeing of him saying, you know, "How about this? Let me focus on individual therapy and couples therapy. Really not gonna maximize all of our options." And so, baby, I'm like, she asked you, you said this, but now you saying this. Okay. And Miss Elena says, I've been through a lot of things. I've been in a lot of situations and I'm just trying to make sure that we do and get to the point where we can and like she's trying to really give leeway for their relationship to work out and I really, really love her and appreciate her for that. And at the end of this conversation, he does agree for them to go to couples therapy. And that I think is the important thing. He is willing to go to make their marriage work. Child, y'all, it is your girl, Pretty Sis Jordan Brand, aka Stunner Assassin. Until next time, Assassins, remember be safe, stay positive, and mm, mm, mm. And baby, I'm gonna catch y'all on the other side for Heart and Hustle Houston, episode 7. But it has been episode 6, Back in the Saddle. We out. Bye y'all.